Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, Adam Cruz, and I have my fantastic co-host here,
Eddie Nicholas, and I'm alive and well, and we doing what we do. Welcome to 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. We're so glad that you came to check us out and join us today. Adam, what is going on in the world of music and news?
Oh my God, I would say OMG to UMG. But before we start, we want to let our listeners and our viewers know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here, not only giving you fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music, business news, and trends from around the globe. We're live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. So today we are starting the day off with UMG. That's the Universal Music Group.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to side-eye or jump for joy. We'll see. So just recently, the Music Business Worldwide has published a report that says that streaming services have paid Universal Music Group an average of $4 million a day for the first 3 months of the year. So that's the first quarter, because now that we're into the second quarter, you're starting to get the first quarter reports. So the first quarter reports have says that they have made $351 million in streaming income to Universal Music Group. So that's an average of about $4 million a day. Okay? There's the big downside. The big downside is that their digital download income, for them, they use the biggest outfit, which we know is iTunes. They're losing money like at a crash level, like spiraling downward to the depths of rock bottom. And so this last report has indicated that they've dropped 32% of the income that's coming in from iTunes. But UMG is not pressed at all. Why? Because they've made so much money on the strength of streaming, that their parent company Vivendi is not really bothered, because they're kind of there's so much money on the streaming side that it circumvents the need to have a plug of that lost income for iTunes downloads. So I'm like, okay, this is where I want to get your feedback on. First thing is, I think it's amazing that the function, meaning the service is there, you access the service as a user, there's a payment process through that, either you're a subscriber through ad services, what have you, that gets transmitted and sent to the label. For this whole time, there's been this debate about why is it that the artist gets so low an amount. When we get our checks, it's such a paltry amount. And so it started to be real problematic. There's lacking of transparency, and there needs to be more in the way of metadata. That's a fancy way of saying how one can track which one is your song versus which one isn't, and how many times it's been streamed. So the idea that UMG has managed to get from these services upwards of $4 million a day on average, that means that tells me this is good news, because it means the function, as a function, this is working out. You access the service, it pays to the label's getting that money. It's actually increasing, and it's killing off downloads, which we knew would be happening. We knew this was going to be happening. But on the bad side, the artists are saying, wait a minute, how come they're making so much money, but we're still at only 0.007 per stream?
Because they found a new way to suck blood.
Yes, but I think this is a good thing, because in the fights that are occurring in music conferences and so on and so forth, they're all talking about the same few things, which is around transparency and metadata. They want to have better ways to track your plays and such. Remember, we were talking in episodes past how there's services that are coming up now that says, look, we can track your performance royalties. You could aggregate your little song to iTunes and Rhapsody and all them if you want. You can track it all now from one outfit. You don't need to necessarily only mess with like a Sound Exchange or a BMI or CSAC. It's starting to get muddy the waters. Where it used to be these structures were in place so that you could try to get your performance royalties that were due to you. Now they're saying that those systems aren't working. So now there are companies that are coming up to say, let's all house it in one.
And again, those systems are working. And the question that I did want to ask you was, when you're talking about the money that they made, a lot of those monies are made off of the stratosphere entertainers. Let's be clear. When I'm looking at that, and you're talking about we made 4 million, blah blah blah, we do this. People are basically downloading the Beyoncés,
right,
the Rihannas, right, and so they're making money off of those type of artists. So you know, it's still a little murky for those of us that are still considered independent because UMG is making money off of the bigger
outfits.
labels, the
Right.
bigger outfits.
Right. So let's be clear about a few things. We are only talking about UMG artists. So that may not be applicable to like the Beyonces and such. I forget who belongs to what label at this point. But I think the broader argument that the structure is there and it's working helps us independent artists, because as we see, as time goes forward, there's starting to be more tools out there for the independent artist to kind of take this on him or herself.
Take more control.
Yeah, and you don't have to. They're saying now it's proof positive that these reports are indicating that the money is flowing where it needs to. Just from once it gets to the label's hands and to back to the artist, there's a lot of money that happens. Let me say that again. So the money that's coming from these streaming services like Spotify, Apple, and so on, they're paying. They keep saying the same thing. Spotify says it. All of them say, I'm telling you, we're paying these companies. You need to go to them, your labels, to say, why aren't you paying us more? So I think this kind of proves their point that they are in fact paying, and they're paying more over time, not less. It's just what happens once it gets to the hands of the UMGs of the world before it gets trickled out to their artist, Eddie Nicholas, for example. So Eddie's point is valid. That money is getting trickled down, but to the biggest, highest earners of the UMG catalog, which whoever that is, let's dig up the math. I'm sure we can figure it out. They're getting the lion's share of the income, but when you trickle down to the other artists on the label, when let's say somebody has a modicum of success is not really getting much of that income, it's only a fraction thereof. And there's another big problem that we'll talk when we come back. But YouTube, there's been a big fight about trying to figure out how much money is being filtered through YouTube back to the labels. Some companies are transparent and others are blaming the labels for forcing them to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That's a fancy way of saying we can't tell you. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that and the drama that's happening with Beatport, one of the biggest digital music outfits. I don't know what's happening. Stay tuned and find out.
91.6 FM, Heartbeat Ups today.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people, and welcome back. 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat Ups today. I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Nicholas, and I'm here with my fantastic co-host,
Adam Cruz. We're live and direct right here on the Freedom Radio Hour. We're your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. Before we broke, we were talking about the what's happening in the news regarding UMG. That's Universal Music Group. In short, the reports have come back that streaming services are paying major labels like UMG upwards of $4 million a day for the first quarter of this year. That's an increase, and it all on the bottom line, the overall health of the company now, they're saying has risen to 8%. So now they're like valued at $1.something billion, right?
Here we go with the billions of
I
dollars,
know.
and they still can't pay folks.
No. So what we're talking about now, though, is what happens on the digital music front. Before we broke, we were also talking about the bad news with respect to digital download income. The reports have also come back to say that UMG has lost 32% of the download income. That's another way of saying people are streaming, they're not downloading the material anymore, which we know is happening because why do you need to download when you can access the material from any device at any time? The only downside of even that is if you lose power or lost access to the internet, you may not have access to certain songs or videos for that moment. But it doesn't seem like it's shattering society, so they want to do something about that. I mean, even these services now are touting offline content. So in other words, like that music key that YouTube launched a while ago, they were touting that you could get access to the material online as well as off.
Oh, what? But wait a minute. How do you get stuff offline if you're not connected to nothing?
Because
Was it wireless or something? What's
Yeah,
going
because
on?
they're trying to allow you to download the product and you could save it on your phone. That's different than most of them, which is just streaming. So you could listen and access only if you have a connection to the internet. So there's like the two-tiered approach here.
It's like a download.
Exactly. But people are not really doing that anymore. That's what the point is. Everybody's just streaming it because why would you want to take up space on your phone from a movie or something if you could just stream it?
Hence, it turns into a podcast.
Right. Okay, got it? Well, there's also some drama. I want to talk about the company called SFX Entertainment. They're the umbrella company for Beatport.
That sounds like something off of Channel 5. SFX.
I know, right?
News singer.
Season 2, you know.
Season 2.
Yeah, exactly. But
What's going on with Beatport?
So Beatport is basically, they've been dealing with a lot of drama because they were in the middle of being sold. They filed for Chapter 11, trying to deal with over $300 million in debt. The CEO of the company, Robert Sillerman, in the midst of this, had to step down as a CEO, so it got real shady. But essentially,
and how much money did he leave with? Have they disclosed that?
Well, up until right to this week, they were ready to be auctioned off. They had an auction set. There's a deadline by which you need to have certain paperwork submitted, etc., etc. All of that was taking place. They had a set date for that auction. But on the day that it was to occur, or around the time it was to occur, Beatport instead has issued a press release to say two major news. Number one, they have canceled the auction. They are no longer going to be sold. Mm-hmm. However, they are still entertaining offers. In other words, if you want to buy them, they're still entertaining offers, but they have canceled the auction. On the surface, that tells you there must have been some drama behind the scenes to cause the cancellation of something like this that was already set in motion.
No, because probably what was going to come out, their records were probably going to be searched, and it was going to pop up like another little Jay-Z situation where they inflated stuff and all of that type of stuff.
And all of that is alleged, but yes, it does make you feel that there's something
shady.
Yes, something shady is occurring, right? So anyway, so they've decided to cancel this auction. They're still entertaining offers if you want to buy it. But the other thing that they've decided to do is they said, listen, we've lost focus. For the last 12 years, we were the premier digital music store for DJs and electronic dance music aficionados, blah, 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 blah. We've lost focus when we started to, because, they were bought for $50 million in 2013. And after that time, once they got the store up and running and it became very popular, if you remember, there was a time when Beatport was the direct competitor was TrackSource. Now, in our world, we like house music, but more on the soulful side. Mm-hmm. We like more vocals, a little bit slower in tempo, a little bit soul infused, more melodies and such. You could find more product like that on TrackSource than you could arguably on Beatport. So Beatport was always sort of the big room house EDM stuff in our minds, in our community. But Beatport was very, very strong. So it was very telling that after 2013 and they purchased it, they became a very strong store. And then they wanted to branch out even further. They launched the mobile app.
Greedy.
They launched a music streaming service like a Spotify.
Greedy.
They launched a video live streaming platform.
Greedy. And
they launched a dance music news channel.
Greedy. And they expected for your $20 subscription to pay for all of that. You're not telling the truth.
You are. So this press release came out this week talking about, we've canceled the auction, so we're no longer being sold, but we are entertaining offers if you are going to buy us. The other thing is we killed all that because we felt we lost focus. So now we've killed the live streaming video thing, the streaming service, the mobile app, the news channel, all that. We've killed it in favor of focusing on the store. Do you think this is going to be the sign that they're going to turn themselves around? Or do you feel like this is just further down the slippery slope towards bankruptcy?
Well, I think it's kind of both, but at the same token, people did go to that site to purchase music.
Right.
So again, if that was that cash cow in the beginning, it makes sense to keep that portion afloat, especially if it's going to still bring some type of income. It might not bring as much, but it'll bring what evidently they need to run. Again, you being sold for $50 million, that should have been enough money to help somebody run whatever they needed to run and do whatever they needed to do.
Well, clearly not. They ran into $300 million in debt. Let's take a break. We're going to talk more about what happens in these moments and what are the implications for us independent artists when we're trying to get
You just got to find another site to go sell your music on. It's just that simple. But we'll be back. 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of today.
Freedom Radio Hour.
And we're back live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sudan. We're at Freedom Radio Hour, and you're deep in the zone right here at the #1 source for music, business news, and trends from around the globe. I'm here with my partner, Eddie Nicholas.
What up, beautiful people?
Yes, and we're talking about music business news. Before we broke, we were discussing Beatport.
Yes.
For a long time, they were the biggest digital music outfit out there. They were offering the alternative to sort of the soulful house music that we're into, and we would purchase our music by and large at tracksource.com. Beatport was always the strong competitor, where they played more of the bigger room house. They played more of that EDM, electronic dance music sound. They too were very much thriving in terms of their store. But after they bought, they wanted to get and expand and make more money. So they launched other outfits that now that they're in the middle of Chapter 11 bankruptcy filings, they have canceled their auction to sell it off. They have removed all of those added services, the streaming service that they started, the mobile app, the news channel, all of that. They killed all of that in favor of pivoting back towards the store. Eddie, what was your point about this? You were saying that you thought it was a sign that it might be nearing its end?
Well, no, not so much nearing its end, but just trying to way to still remain viable.
Yeah, because, I mean, if they're going to pivot back to the store, the very thing that they wanted to expand away from.
But that was the very thing that allowed them to get to where they had to go.
And they still have this quagmire, which is the $300 million debt that they're trying to deal with right now.
And all people really want to do is buy music.
And that means that don't forget, we don't forget things here at the Freedom Radio Hour. Last summer, the second quarter of the year, they had a problem where for the first time they couldn't pay their labels. Like, you wait every month to get a statement from a track source or such. Beatport, that particular summer month, couldn't do it. So that's led us down this path where Robert Sillerman, the CEO, had to step down while this was happening. But even Robert Sillerman had to come back and thoroughly apologize, saying, quote, he felt thoroughly embarrassed that this occurred, where they had to essentially, he felt like, or intimated that there was no, it wasn't strong enough of a reason to not pay that particular month. But they chose not to, and it was very telling.
That's
that
right,
they were.
Somebody had an apartment that needed to be renovated. Somebody needed wood paneling on the yacht that they had.
I would hate to think that it's really like that. I would really, because I'm more like the guy that wants to consider.
What about being a doubtful Charlie?
I hear you, but you're telling the truth. I just kind of, in my mind, I think more that there's a system malfunctioning that occurs, meaning the money goes from point A to point D. And while it does that, things go awry. Somebody takes it. The middleman takes it. The societies take a little
because
chunk.
Again, all it takes is to press the one button nowadays, and you can screw up everything.
You really can. And look, all the proof is in all the hackers that have been, all the hacking that's been occurring between NRA and such. All of the things that we feel so secure about kind of aren't that secure when you think about it. So yeah, it makes me think, oh wow, if a company like a Beatport, which to me seemed like it was going to be around forever, is dealing with drama right now, I wonder how TrackSource is faring. I'm dying to figure out how a Brian Tappert, one of the co-founders of TrackSource, what his opinion is about what's happening at Beatport, and can we expect some similar news coming from TrackSource? Because they too had to figure out when to pay this withholding amount that they would withhold from labels. They withheld it for over 2 years, finally paid it out. But there's
Was
always
the interest included?
Exactly. There's always that question of how healthy are these digital download sites? Now, when streaming's coming up, you have the biggest company, UMG, that's saying that they lost 32% of their income from digital downloads that they were expecting. That was like a loss of $100 million.
But they tripled elsewhere.
Right. But TrackSource isn't a streaming outfit.
No.
So how is TrackSource going to deal with the loss that's to come? That's what I'm talking about. We'll break this down further. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the Freedom Radio Hour. Definitely check out EddieNicholas.com. His latest single is entitled One Time Didn't Mean a Thing. Got to check that out. Of course, his Do You Want to Dance LP will be coming in September. We got to let our viewers know, Eddie, by the way, the release date. And we want to pick up on a conversation in the future about your plans for the album. So we know it'll be in September, but we want to tell them when in September and where they could find it. Definitely also check out DJAdamCruz.com. My latest Freedom LP is available everywhere. And of course, post under everything that we're posting. We're at freedomradiohour.com. That's where you can get all the articles that we post regarding music business news. Have a great weekend, a great week ahead. We'll see you next time.
That's right, 91.6 FM, the heartbeat of Sedan. Peace out.
Peace.